Welcome to Conversations With. My name is Kirsty McDonald, and in Central Victoria we are incredibly fortunate to have inspiring, talented women who have achieved wonderful things in both their careers and in their personal lives. Over the coming weeks, I'll be bringing to you their inspiring stories, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Jacinta Allen. Welcome, Jacinta Allen, and thank you very much for speaking with us today.
It's great to be talking to you.
If I could start by going back to 1999, you're 25 years of age and you're the youngest woman to be elected into the Victorian Parliament. Can you share with us what that felt like, what it was like going in on the first day on the job?
Oh, it was absolutely exhilarating. It was an incredible experience, and I should say, just to put some context around it, the state election in 1999 was actually the day before my 26th birthday. So that weekend I had the state election on the Saturday, my birthday on the Sunday, and for Essendon and Carlton supporters, they were playing in the preliminary final, and I'm an Essendon supporter where we lost by 1 point that year. So it was there was a lot going on in that weekend. So I knew at the end of it, I thought, well, whatever happens this weekend, at least I'll have a birthday party. And as it turned out, we also had an election victory to celebrate, and then going into work on the Monday, I suppose it was just such an exhilarating feeling. Obviously, was an enormous sense of pride in the achievement, a great sense that as a team, my campaign team that we'd worked with, we'd had a great outcome, and it was all built on the strong teamwork that we developed locally.
Absolutely. And with 16 years on, have you seen a lot of changes, and what changes have you seen as far as equality for women in the workplace?
Well, there are more women in the workplace, and not just women as members of parliament. There are women in senior roles like chiefs of staff to ministers, women in senior roles in the public service, and women working throughout both the public service and private ministerial offices. So there are more women in the role. It's still not equal though. And I think that should concern anyone who wants to see an equality of outcomes. I'm a very firm believer that parliaments should reflect the community they're there to serve, and to do that properly, there needs to be an equal number of women and men in the parliaments. We're getting there. We've come an enormously long way over the past 16 years, but there is still quite a way to go.
Yes. Do you think the appointment of Julia Gillard has certainly helped in that way of young girls being able to see you can get to the top position?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Julia's election as Prime Minister obviously brought the situation into stark relief that she was the first woman to hold the office of Prime Minister. That was something that should be noted, celebrated, acknowledged, and then, you know, she's then judged on the job she performed. And so, but it is worth remembering that it's taken us a very long time in this country to get our first female Prime Minister. And we hope won't be long before there is another one, because again it is about demonstrating in all different walks of life, for young women who want to go on and achieve whatever their career goal is, whatever their aspiration in life is. If they can see other women doing it, they know that it's achievable for them, and that's why it's so important to have both. There is an important symbolism in the role, but also there's such an important practical realities of the role, because it does provide an inspiration for other women.
Absolutely. So on that note, with the generation of young girls coming through, what do you think will be the biggest challenge to them?
Look, I think one of the challenges for younger women today is that is understanding that there is still a bit of a battle there, that despite the many great achievements, there is still not, unfortunately, an equality of outcomes. So if you look at the numbers of young women graduating from university, there are more young women than men today graduating from universities. But then if you look in the boardrooms, if you look in the parliaments, if you look at who the CEOs of companies are, we're a long way from seeing anything like equal numbers of women. If you look at some of the social challenges that we face, you know, the most significant social justice issue we face as a community is domestic and family violence, and we know that that is an issue that disproportionately affects women and children, and that is a significant issue. It does hold women back. It does keep women in and their children in poverty, in situations where they've got tenuous housing arrangements, and for women, some women, they live in fear. And so that's one of the reasons why the Andrews Labor government here in Victoria is pursuing the Royal Commission into Family Violence, because we recognise it's an issue that needs to be addressed. The systematic response needs to be addressed, but also too, it's about recognising that it is disproportionately affecting women, and that the government should do something about it.
Sure. And it's interesting. I mean, you've built such an incredible career for yourself, and you're continuing to build that career. What sort of advice would you have for young girls who are looking? They're at that stage in their teens, trying to sort of work out their career, but also build on it. What sort of advice?
Look, it is tough when you're young. I certainly, when I was at school, I had multiple different ideas about what I wanted to do when I grew up. You know, various options, from being a hairdresser to a school teacher to being a journalist. I had a whole range of different careers I wanted to pursue, and I think it's understanding that that's okay. To, when you're sort of in your teens, to know that if you haven't made your mind up, that's okay. For those who have, fantastic, and that's their passion, they've found it, and they should pursue it. For others, it is about making sure that they take the time to think about what they want to do. Don't feel pressured, but ultimately it is about, hopefully for as many young people and many young women as possible, it's about doing something you're passionate about. I feel so lucky that I'm doing a job that I absolutely love, that I'm passionate about, that 16 years later I'm still, you know, get out of bed each morning and think how lucky I am to be the member for Bendigo East and playing a role in the government. It's wonderful, and so that is very important to me. Is the advice for young people is find what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, because that will take you a long way to achieving your career goals.
And do you think that passion that you have, we often hear a lot of women say to other women, you can have it all, but we don't often hear how. And you have 2 children, you have a husband and a career in Parliament. How is it that you're able to maintain that work-life balance? Is it the passion, or is it?
Well, it's a number of things, and I think this is also an important point to make on this issue, is that I don't think you can have it all. I think no one can have it all, male or female. It is about recognising that at different points in your life, you're doing different things, and you have to make adjustments to your lifestyle, adjustments to what you do. I've always been so blessed that I have had at every step on my professional career journey and personal journey, I've had amazing family support. I've got a wonderful husband who takes care, is the primary carer for our 2 beautiful children. I've always had an amazing level of support from my parents, who every step of the way, they've been with me on my political journey every step of the way, and in large part they're to blame for some of that my political activism as well. And so that's just been such an important bedrock for me, to be able to go on and give me the platform on which I've been able to do what I've done in my political career. And so it is, though, right now my life is very busy going to work, going home and spending as much time as possible as I can with my family. And that does mean we don't go out as much. We don't go to the movies. I think I've been to the movies once in the last 2 years, you know. So it does mean you've got to make adjustments and compromises along the way, but recognising it is all part of that journey. And so for women, it's making sure we don't feel too stressed that we should be doing it all. Just recognising that at different points in time, you have to make adjustments. You have to change things a little bit to get through. And it is about, for me, making sure that I maximise the time I can spend with my family, and also do the job that I've been elected to do as the member for Bendigo East.
Yes, yeah. And as the member of Bendigo East, you've made yourself very accessible to the people of Bendigo through social media, through Twitter and Facebook, and you engage a lot with Facebook. But I wanted to know, have you ever experienced the negative aspects of social media, such as cyberbullying? And if so, what strategies do you put in place to combat that?
It is so disappointing that some people choose to behave absolutely appallingly through the anonymity of social media. I have much more respect for people who will come and tell me their views or put their name to a view than those who choose to be nasty, intimidatory, bullying anonymously through social media. So for me, it's about, I guess, thinking that, well, they're cowards. People who are behaving in that way are cowards, and I have no time for them. And so I do, I guess, in some ways, just shut that out. I see it for what it is. I see it as people behaving badly. Unfortunately, in certain professions, and politics is one of those, we do attract a bit of negative commentary, and I don't mind a bit of negative commentary. I don't mind a bit of debate, as long as people put their name to it, will stand behind what they say. And so I do, I guess, compartmentalise out the anonymous nastiness and bullyingness, and recognise that it is unfortunately something that occurs. It probably says more about the individual that's doing it than about anything I may be doing, and try and just focus on the positives, because the flip side of it is you do get amazing positive feedback through social media. You can have an incredible dialogue with communities. You can find out what people are thinking, and that helps me enormously do my job, and that's to be valued. And unfortunately, you just have to see the other negative side for what it is and put it to one side.
Sure, absolutely. With young girls nowadays and who are about to embark on building a career, do you think social media is something that they've got to be very mindful of, because it can lose control, they can lose control of that side, and if they're trying to build a career?
Look, social media is obviously a powerful force in our lives now. It's just remarkable. If you want to ask, that is the thing that's changed the most over my time in politics over the past 16 years, is the emergence of social media as a way that people communicate with each other and share their political views and have political debate. That has just been the biggest change that I've experienced. And so for young women, it is about understanding, and I'm sure many young women have been given this advice before, but everything you post is public property. Understanding that nothing is anonymous online. And unfortunately, there's been many examples of people who've found out that the hard way for things they've posted online that they've since regretted, particularly when it's gone into the public arena. I think for young women in particular, they do have to work a little bit harder in particular professions to get noticed, to get chosen, and unfortunately, if there's some negative gear on social media, that can be used against them. So it's understanding that social media is something that can be embraced. It can be a positive way to communicate with people, but be very mindful of what you say on social media. A politician with a lot more experience than me once said to me, don't ever put something in an email that you wouldn't want to see printed on the front page of the Bendigo Advertiser. And I think that's very good advice for social media. Don't put something on Facebook that you wouldn't want to see plastered on the front page of the Bendigo Advertiser.
Very great advice, great advice. There's a lot of inspiring people throughout the world through either what they've achieved but also their attitudes and values. I'd be curious just to know, if you could invite some of these people to a dinner party at your house, who would be sitting at the table?
Wow, that's an incredibly challenging question, because there are so many amazing and inspirational people. I personally am a big fan of Hillary Clinton. I would love to meet her and hear about some of her experiences. But I guess the other thing I've learnt over the years, both through my professional dealings and some personal dealings too, there are so many amazing people. I was reading a story in the Herald Sun the other day about a young baby who'd been cared for by two of the world's top medical staff at the Royal Children's Hospital, who I happen to know through our own set of experiences, and they're two people that you'd want to have sitting around the table telling their amazing stories about the work they do. You know, these are people who save lives, save the lives of young children, who give young children the best chance at life, and so they're pretty amazing people as well. And so there is a great diversity of people around there. Some of them are the high profile ones, like I've mentioned Hillary Clinton, but you know, I'll have dinner with anyone and talk to them about their experiences, because I think the other thing I've learnt through my time in politics is everyone has a really interesting story to share if they're given the chance.
Yeah.
And you've got to give people the chance to tell their story and share it with you, because you in turn can learn so much from their experiences.
So on that note, Hillary Clinton is someone you would have sitting today. Has that, no doubt that's changed from when you were 16, 17. Did you have anyone in mind at 16, 17 that really inspired you?
Oh, now you're going back quite a way. When I was 16 and 17. And I mean, I guess in politics, the role models then were mostly male. Like, I remember I was at school and reading up about, you know, feminists who'd won women the right to vote, who in this country at the turn of the century, who'd battled internationally to gain equality. Those stories are inspiring. But when I was at school, in terms of the contemporary politicians, and they were people I looked up to, like Paul Keating was someone I looked up to enormously. There weren't too many, and I think at that time Joan Kirner was probably Premier of Victoria. She was the first woman to hold that position, and she was a source of inspiration as well. Again, it's what I was saying before. It's by being in the office, by having a woman in that office, it shows to other young women that is achievable, and that's why part of what Joan achieved here in Victoria was so important. I remember very early on as a Member of Parliament, I went to a school here in Bendigo to talk with a group of about 10 young men and women. They were about 15, 16, and they were chosen by the school for me to come and talk to them, because they were having a few challenges, and they were hoping to show to expose them to different people from different fields who had done things, to try and encourage them to stay at school, to stay learning, to go on and get a career. So I had this long conversation with this group. They were a fantastic group of people, and at the end of it, this young girl looked at me and she said, "Can I have your business card?" Oh, okay. So I gave her my business card, and she looked at it and she said, "Well, if you can do it, so can I." And that's something that's stuck with me ever since, and that was very early on. And I thought, wow, well, that's right. You know, if nothing else, I can hopefully show that for other young girls growing up in Bendigo, you can go on and represent your community and have an amazing time doing it, and getting to meet so many fabulous people along the way.
Oh, that must have been an amazing feeling to have a young person say that you've had that sort of influence on someone.
Yeah, and it was quite unexpected. It was quite unexpected and unprompted, and it did. And clearly that's something that probably happened about 14 years ago, and it's stuck very strongly with me ever since. Yeah.
So throughout your career, you often read autobiographies and biographies and varying books of people who have accomplished things, and quite often they'll say they had a mantra or an affirmation or a word that just helped them, motivate them and get them through some areas of their life, but certainly motivated them more. Do you have any sort of words that you fall back to just to help motivate you?
Well, as I said before, I feel pretty motivated every day because I love what I do. But I guess for me, it's a couple of things. It's when I'm faced with a challenging situation or an issue, it's there's I guess two things that drive me. It's be prepared, a bit of the old Boy Scout motto: be prepared, do the reading, be across the issue, be as prepared as you possibly can be, and across the detail, and then trust your instincts is the other thing, and if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't, and that's been a couple of things that have really helped, I guess, guide me through some of the ups and downs and some of the challenging issues that we have to work through.
For sure. But on that positive note, I'd just like to say thank you very much, Jacinta Allen, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's been great talking with you.